おはようございます。
Minasan, Ohio Gozaimasu. I'm Justin, and this is the first installment of THK Manufacturing of America's series on Japanese language and culture, Ohio Gozaimasu. That is a bit of a pun. We're filming from the fine state of Ohio, but in Japanese, Ohio means good morning. At TMA, Japanese is important to us because we have a number of Japanese staff working here, and some of our American staff are studying Japanese. Let's go take a look.
Did you do the homework? I'm trying to remember all the greetings, but I'm not sure if I got them all.
Psh, I got this.
Really? So many of them end in MAS. I get them all mixed up. What's with that MAS business anyway?
I don't know. Why don't you ask Sensei?
Ohio Gozaimasu. Welcome to Japanese class. So, Minasan, did you do the Japanese homework? Did you memorize those greetings I assigned?
I'm not so sure. Can we review?
Sure. Let's go to the word warp.
The word warp? Yeah!
Oh no, not this again.
There are a lot of common greetings in Japanese, so let's try to learn just 6 today. Let's listen to some native speakers and try to repeat after them. First is a greeting used early in the day, like good morning.
おはようございます。
おはようございます。
Ohio Gozaimasu is a more formal greeting. It can be shortened in casual situations, like when you are talking with your family or friends. Sometimes a boss will use the shortened version with a subordinate. Let's try the shortened version. Morning.
おはよう。
おはよ
Next is a phrase that means thank you.
ありがとうございます。
う。ありがとうございます。
This can also be shortened to be more casual. Thanks.
ありがとう。
ありがと
Next is a phrase that means please, or I request of you, or thanks in advance.
お願いします。
う。お願いします。
Last is a phrase that is said before people eat or when they receive something, usually food, from someone else. It's sometimes accompanied by a gesture. One trick to remembering this is that the first part sounds like the English phrase eat a duck.
いただきます。
いただきます。
Those are all the greeting expressions we're going to learn today. Do you think you've memorized them all? If not, you can go back and watch the video again. Next, let's try an activity. We'll show you a few scenarios and pause the video. What greeting phrase do you think the person will say? We'll unpause after a few seconds so you can hear the correct answer. Ohio Gozaimasu. Ohio Gozaimasu.
ありがとうございます。
いただきます。
ありがと
お願いします。
おはよ
おはよ
う。いただきます。So, Mina-san, how did you do?
I think I'm getting the hang of it, but I do have another question.
Doza.
All of those phrases end in MAS, but what is MAS? And why is it pronounced MAS, but spelled MASU.
That's actually two questions. Do you want the short answer or the long answer?
How about the medium answer?
So the first question was, what is mas? Simply put, mas is a verb ending. Japanese is what we call a subject-object-verb language, and that means the verb or action word comes at the end of the sentence. Since mas is a common verb ending, it's often the last part of a sentence. Mas happens to be the formal, affirmative, non-past ending. Formal means that you will use this ending with people you do not know too well. Japanese people will not use this ending with family or close friends. If you remember our greetings, Ohio is used casually and Ohio Gozaimasu is formal. Arigato is casual. Arigato gozaimasu is formal. Affirmative means that you do the action. The opposite of this is the negative. In English, if we want to say that we do not eat or do not play, we add the words do not before a verb. Japanese changes the ending. In case you're curious, the Japanese negative ending is masen, but we'll talk about that later. Non-past means that the action is something you do or will do. The other option is the past, something that you did, ate, watched, and so on, at an earlier time. The Japanese past tense verb ending is mashita, but again, we'll talk about that later. Basically, mas is used for any actions that you do or will do. That's why it's so common. And it is contrasted with other endings like masen for things that you do not do, and mashita for things that you did. Why do we write it M-A-S-U and pronounce it like mas? Sometimes the sounds u and i in Japanese words are not pronounced very strongly. This is particularly common at the end of words and after unvoiced consonants like s. We do it in English too, with some letters, like the letter T in button and one.
Okay, that makes a bit more sense, but it still seems pretty complicated.
You'll just have to come to the rest of the classes. We'll talk more about mas, masen, and mashita in the future.
Sensei, I have a question. What's the deal with the itadakimasu gesture? It looks like they're praying. Is that saying grace before a meal?
A culture question. That's a very astute observation. Itadakimasu belongs to a special group of words called kenjogo, or humble speech. It can be used to mean I eat, I drink, or I receive. So when a Japanese person puts their hands together and says, I humbly receive before a meal, who are they talking to? Well, different people might tell you different things, but answers that I have heard include that they are saying it to express appreciation to farmers who grew the food and whoever prepared and served it. They might be taking a moment to thank the plants and the animals that died to become the meal. Depending on the person's religious beliefs, they might also be thanking God or the gods for providing the meal too. So yes, it could be considered something similar to saying grace. Itadakimasu means that the person is taking a second to think about how whenever we eat, we are connected to the other people and living things around us, on a physical level and maybe even on a spiritual level. We will find that the theme of acknowledging interconnectedness shows up a lot in Japanese culture. That was a quick introduction to some of the basic greetings and everyday expressions in Japanese. It might be hard to master them all right away, so go ahead and rewatch the video if you want to practice more.
If you enjoyed this video, there are more coming, so please like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already.
Also, if you have questions, go ahead and ask us in the comments. And also let us know what kind of language and culture topics you want to know more about.